Well, as you just heard and saw and will read, a lot of the economic impact of congestion study has to do with expanding our capacity. Now, this assumes that we've been maintaining our existing assets and really begs the question, are we? So what is the condition of our existing assets? So Deschutes County Commissioner Tammy Bainey is here to talk to us about that.
Thank you, Jonathan. I will be wearing 3 hats today. First, as a Deschutes County Commissioner. Second, as a member of the Oregon Transportation Commission. And third, in keeping with the business theme, I am a self-appointed ambassador for the Central Oregon craft brewing industry. Having bungee jumped off a bridge for a pitcher of Jubile Ale, I'm hoping that I've earned that title. So I'd like to start by sharing a timely message that the governor delivered to the legislature. My short experience has convinced me, first, that good roads are our greatest need and no material development can come without them. Second, many favor better roads, but few are willing to pay for them. And third, that he who undertakes the construction of roads get damned for the cost but no credit for his effort. The governor who delivered this was Oswald West to the 1915 legislature. Apparently, not much has changed in 100 years. But in a sense, Governor West was wrong, because Oregonians have repeatedly stepped up to pay for transportation. Oregon has a century of leaders, from Governor West to Governor Kitzhaber, who have raised the resources necessary to build a great transportation system. They created an asset worth tens of billions of dollars, and our task now is to keep faith with their legacy and preserve this inheritance for generations to come. Governor West's observation that a good transportation system is critical to the state's economy rings just as true today as it did a century ago. Oregon is a trade-dependent state, ranking 9th in the nation in trade per capita. We rely on exports from our farms, forests, and factories to drive our economy. 1 in every 5 jobs in Oregon depends on a strong transportation system. As Jonathan explained earlier, companies choose to locate and expand in Oregon because of our strong transportation system. And natural resource industries such as agriculture and timber, as well as manufacturers, require highways, railroads, and ports to move their products efficiently to market. But even with the strong investments made in recent years by our legislature and congressional delegation, the ability of Oregon's infrastructure to handle future demand is threatened. A number of trends will leave us with inadequate funding to cope with future needs. Federal transportation funding is stagnant and threatened with deep cuts due to the federal gas tax that has been flat for more than 2 decades. People are driving less, and they're driving more fuel-efficient vehicles, making the gas tax an unsustainable funding source. And last, the system is aging. Many of our bridges are approaching the age where they should be forced into mandatory retirement, but they're being kept in service longer because we cannot afford to replace them. Now that's a really comforting thought. As a result, highway conditions will deteriorate significantly. An increasing number of bridges will be closed to heavy trucks. A simple trip from point A to point B will become a not so simple trip with lengthy detours around crumbling infrastructure. Or loads may have to be broken up, forcing businesses to run 2 trucks versus 1. Either way, businesses will face higher transportation costs, which will make them less competitive on global markets, or worse yet, they may leave Oregon entirely. When ODOT plugged the expected condition of state highway bridges into its economic model, it found that the state could lose $94 billion in production by 2035 due to higher transportation costs. This, of course, would create a significant loss of jobs. Local governments already see the deteriorating conditions. Many counties face the possible end, or counties in general face the possible end of the federal timber payments that have helped sustain our roads. We're struggling with hard choices such as which roads to return to gravel. Cities too face inadequate resources to meet the infrastructure needs. And as Representative Benz mentioned earlier, some counties are looking at partnering with Travel Oregon on new tourism opportunities. Who wouldn't want to try out pothole fishing, pothole climbing, or pothole diving? They really could be the new hot sports in Oregon. So since I've probably got you a little bit depressed right after lunch, let's shift to another emotion. How about pure terror? Scientists tell us that Oregon experiences Cascadia subduction zone earthquakes of a magnitude of 8.0 and greater. The question is not if a quake will happen, it is when. And when it does, many bridges in Western Oregon will be destroyed or seriously damaged, and landslides will block our highways. To give you just one example from right outside, the I-405 Fremont Bridge should remain standing, but its approach spans will collapse, and many of the structures on the I-5, I-84 interchange will also collapse. This 1-2 punch will cut off access to industrial and port facilities, and the West Coast main artery of trade will be severed. Unfortunately, similar stories will play out in hundreds of other locations. Highways will be blocked for months or years, leaving businesses cut off from their workers, supply chains, and markets for their products. Many firms will fail, others will simply leave the state. Lost production due to limited mobility could reach $350 billion in the first 7 years after an earthquake. Luckily, we can make the transportation system resilient to a Cascadia earthquake. Retrofitting bridges would bring highways back online quickly, allowing them to serve the response and recovery, and ensuring that Bend can supply beer for that recovery. ODOT estimates that a comprehensive retrofit program would reduce the state's loss, the loss to the state's economy by $84 billion. Now that's pretty incredible. And even if we don't suffer an earthquake soon, Oregon would benefit greatly from a comprehensive program aimed at improving the seismic health of our bridges. Repairing and replacing hundreds of bridges that otherwise would have to be restricted for trucks would keep our economy strong. And making our state highways resilient to a major earthquake would cost a typical family less than $5 a month. That's roughly the price of a 6-pack of Mirror Pond Pale Ale. Our transportation system truly is a case where we can pay now or we can pay a whole lot more later. The picture I've just painted sounds bleak, but it doesn't have to be bleak because we can control this. We have an opportunity to invest in infrastructure that will allow Oregon's communities and businesses to prosper, paying back that investment many, many, many times over. We are in this together. We have a responsibility to act, and the time to act is now. Our decisions today will determine the economic vitality of Oregon's future. Thank you.